Good morning, Year 5. Welcome to your English lesson. We're planning today. I've got a starter for you to start. It's all about speech, and then we're going to move on to planning. Okay, so as a starter, what I'd like you to think about is using dialogue. Okay, so using speech in your story. Dialogue is a conversation or speech that is written down as part of a piece of narrative text, so part of a story. It's usually between two or more people, and it can be really useful when describing characters or advancing a story's plot. Okay, when we punctuate speech, it's important that it's punctuated correctly. Okay, so you could use it, using inverted commas or speech marks to indicate that speech is happening. All speech should start with a capital letter, and the end of the speech should be punctuated inside the inverted commas. So if somebody is asking a question, the question mark goes inside the inverted commas. Finally, you should use a new line for each speaker. "We've gone the wrong way again," sighed Boris, who was fed up of flying around in circles. Okay, so you can see at the beginning, we've has got a capital letter, and after again there is a comma, and that sits inside the inverted commas. Okay, you can also see that side Boris is not inside the inverted commas, because Boris the bee would not say that, would he? He would sound a bit silly if he said side Boris. "No, we haven't," shouted Beryl over the buzz of the hundreds of pairs of beating wings. "Queen Betty knows the way, and anyway, I'm sure that we've not seen this patch of flowers before." Okay, so again, we've started a new line for a new speaker bee, and because that speech is split into two, it's allowed to stay in one paragraph. Okay, so Beryl says, "No, we haven't," and she also says, "Queen Betty knows the way, and anyway, I'm sure that we've not seen this patch of flowers before." Okay, we can also use dialogue to advance the action. Okay, so we can use it to enhance and improve the plot of the story, or to make the plot of the story move on. Okay, what we don't want is a pointless conversation in the middle of our story. It needs to be purposeful, it needs to tell the reader something, it needs to move the story on. "Oh, it's not haunted," said Rosie, with one hand resting against the rotten door. It creaked slightly. James jumped. Rosie rolled her eyes at the sight of her friend being scared by a building and pushed the heavy door open. "I don't like it," said James. "It's giving me a weird feeling." "It's fine. There's nothing here." "Rosie, what is it? What can you see?" James said, frantically peering around. Rosie was shaking and pointing to a space just in front of her. There's a..." "What? Where, Rosie? There's nothing there. You're pointing at an empty space." "Stop it, please, you're scaring me," James begged. Okay, so how has that dialogue helped to advance the action? Would you still know what was happening if you took that speech away? No, you probably wouldn't. What has just happened? Absolutely, you're right. The characters have found a haunted house. Rosie has pushed the door open. James is scared. We've found out a lot about their characters just from what they've said. Okay, so you can get a lot out of the speech, but as I say, it needs to be purposeful. Okay, we can create tension. So you can have two or more characters that are in danger. You can make really good dialogue out of that. "Joyce, run!" Rob screamed. "I can see the cave starting to collapse." "We're not going to make it," Joyce panicked. "There's not enough time to get out." "We've got to try. If we don't, we'll be trapped in here for sure." "Wait," said Joyce, screeching into a sudden stop. "Why? We've got less than 5 seconds before we're buried forever," yelled Rob. Joyce looked behind her at the crumbling walls. "We're not the only ones here." Okay, again, it's created tension. We know that something bad is going to happen. we feel uncomfortable because those characters are about to be stuck in a tomb, and suddenly Joyce has realised that there is somebody else there, but we don't know who it is. Okay, and as I said before, speech can also develop your characters. Okay, the way that they speak, the way that they the way that they respond to other characters, the things that they actually say and their word choices can also tell you a lot about their personality. Okay, they might be really sarcastic, they might be a bit of a joker, they might be somebody that's a bit moody and a bit grumpy. Okay, and you can tell that from the way that you choose the vocabulary that they use. "Good day, sir," said an older gentleman while waiting for the bus. "What fine weather we appear to be having." "You what?" exclaimed the second man, who also happened to be waiting. "What is you on about? It's well hot and I ain't liking it." "I do beg your pardon, it's just that I rarely manage to leave the house these days, and I find a spot of sunshine to be most beneficial. I rather enjoy these rare moments of bliss, riding upon fine transport and sheltering beneath this charming infrastructure." "Fine transport? You mean a bus? What's fine about a bus? If I could, I'd spend all day on one of them hovering things. Now that's fine transport." Okay, again, you can see a clear difference between those characters. Okay, it's really obvious what those characters are like just from the way that they speak. Okay, you can make judgments about them and about their personality. So to recap, dialogue can be really useful when advancing the action and developing characters in your writing. So you could use the characters to tell the story. Okay, they need to talk about the events, otherwise the plot does not advance, it doesn't go anywhere. You could create tension. Okay, to do that you need to make them shout or stutter or give the impression of urgency or fear. And you could also use a dialogue to develop the character, so the way that your character speaks and the choice of their vocabulary shows your reader more about those characters' personalities, attitudes and viewpoints. Okay, now what I would like you to do next, there is a worksheet, so pause the video in just a second. There's a worksheet called Starter Template, and there are some speech bubbles on there, so I want you to come up with a purposeful conversation for two characters. It doesn't have to be related to your story, but it needs to be purposeful. It might be that you want it to build tension or to develop a story on. So use what we've just talked about, pause the video here and have a look at that template. Now we're going to look at actually planning our stories, okay? So I would start with the story mounting. I'm going to imagine that I'm planning like the Three Little Pigs, just to give you an idea of what I mean by how you get the story mounting. And now, first of all, I would fill in the characters in the two top corners. Setting for the Three Little Pigs. It's a village. There are 3 houses. One is sticks, one is straw, and one is bricks. Okay, the characters we have, obviously the Three Little Pigs. And we have the Big Bad Wolf. So for the introduction to the Three Little Pigs, what I would be putting in there, I'd be only using bullet points or short sentences, but it starts by all 3 little pigs deciding that they're going to build a house. Each pig chooses a different material. And while this is happening, the big bad wolf is watching. Okay, then in the build-up, of course, the houses need to be built. So each pig actually builds their house. And then, of course, the wolf comes knocking at each one. Okay, pig 1. No, before that even. So the wolf wants to blow each house down and eat the pigs. That is our problem. And essentially eat the pigs. Okay. He goes to each house, and each little pig runs to the next. When they get to the third house though, of course, the wolf climbs up the roof, and to stop him, the resolution, when the wolf comes down the chimney, to the third house, the pigs plant, or they put a fire at the bottom of the chimney, don't they? The pigs light the fire. Oh. So the ending is the wolf lands on the fire. And the pigs live happily ever after. Of course, your story is going to be much better than this, but you get the idea that you have to start with an introduction, you have to build the story up, there must be a problem and a resolution, and then of course the story can end. Now once you've done that, because I'm hoping that won't take you very long, there is another another sheet. You can plan that in a different way if you want to, but I just think that the story mounting helps to make the story flow. Now once you've done that, there's another sheet underneath the video, and it looks a little bit like this. So what you need to do then is to storyboard, I'm just going to number these, to storyboard your story, because then you'll make sure that it does actually definitely flow. And on here you can add any extra vocabulary that you might use. So I'm going to draw 3 pigs. And again, yours will be much better than mine. Okay, and they're going to go and get resources. Okay, then they're going to build their houses, so I'm just going to draw 3 houses. And the wolf is lurking behind them here. I'm going to put the word lurking. And that's the wolf lurking behind them. Okay, I've got 3 houses. One is made of brittle sticks, so I'm going to put that. One is made of straw, and that's going to be, how could I describe that? I'm just going to put dry straw for now, and I'll come back later to change it. Oh, and one, of course, is made of bricks. Okay, you see where I'm going with that. So each box, I'm going to build on my story. I'm going to add vocabulary, and I could even start to add some ideas for speech as well that I might include. Okay, you will have done speech in your starter. So to recap, you are going to use the story mountain to plan your story. Introduction, build up, problem, resolution, ending. Okay, I've done that on the 3 Little Pigs. So introduction, the 3 Little Pigs decide to build a home. Each pig chooses a different material to build from, and the big bad wolf is watching. The build up is that each little pig builds their house and the wolf begins to start knocking at each door. The problem is that the wolf wants to blow each house down to eat the pigs. So each pig runs to the next house. Once I get to the brick house, the wolf is climbing the house and is going to come down the chimney to eat them. So the resolution is that one of the little pigs has an idea and lights the fire at the bottom of the chimney, and the wolf, of course, lands on that in the end. So the 3 little pigs can live happily ever after. Okay, so I can see exactly how that story flows. Once you've done that, you're going to move on to the next sheet and you're going to start to actually storyboard your story out so that you can see exactly how it flows, and make sure that you've added any extra details that you might want to, including vocabulary. Okay, please do use a thesaurus if you have got one at home, or use an online thesaurus if you don't have a hard copy. To improve your vocabulary, this would be absolutely brilliant. So think of some of those describing words, some of those adjectives, and see whether there are any better word choices that you could use. Okay, but today you are just planning. So a story mountain is a must. The storyboard is a could. It would be brilliant if you could get both of those done though. I'd be really happy to see them. So have a lovely rest of your morning, and I will see you later.